When it comes to business, it's time to choose the smart location with global impact. It's time to connect worldwide through advanced logistics networks. It's time to grow in a smart hub for technology and innovation with a dynamic business ecosystem. It's time to reap the benefits of full government support. And it's time to invest in an environment with the expertise that will give your business a competitive edge. The opportunities abound. The time is now. Invest in Thailand.
Well, thank you very much for joining the Thailand Board of Investment's Why Thailand webinar. I'm Dale Foodie from Alchemy and a consultant to the Thailand Board of Investment Sydney office. Before we start today's webinar, I wanted to mention a few housekeeping matters. Firstly, during the webinar, you will be able to hear and see us, but your audio and video has been turned off. If you do have any questions, you can add them to the Q&A window and one of our team will respond to you. The Q&A button can be found at the bottom of your screen. A recording of today's webinar, as well as the presentations, will be available on the Thailand Board of Investment's website at www.boi.go.th in the next few days. With housekeeping out of the way, it is now my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Her Excellency, Ms. Busadi Santipitak, Thailand's Ambassador to Australia. Ambassador Busadi will officially welcome you to today's event and provide an update on the current business environment in Thailand. Thanks, Ambassador.
Swadika and good afternoon. Mr. Narit Thursutirasak, Deputy Secretary General of the Thailand Board of Investment, Ms. Sithi Panbuntek, the Director of Thailand Board of Investment Sydney Office, Mr. Stuart Chaw, Chief Marketing Officer Indochina DB Results, Mr. Douglas Blunt, President Australia Thailand Business Council, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. At the outset, I'd like to thank Dale for the introduction and also to thank the Thailand Board of Investment and particularly Director Sithi of the BOI Sydney office for kindly inviting me to say a few words at this important and timely online briefing on Why Thailand, growth opportunities for Australian business in the heart of ASEAN. It has been roughly a year and a half since the COVID-19 pandemic started, which has impacted us in many ways. Currently, many countries, including Thailand and Australia, are still faced with various challenges that will continue to require joint and collective efforts in the post-COVID-19 recovery. We are all in this together to achieve desirable outcomes that will balance public health safety and ensure economic engagement and opportunities in realization that we will have to learn to live with the virus. Therefore, curbing the spread of the COVID-19 virus, ensuring equitable access to safe vaccines, pursuing an effective vaccine rollout plan, implementing lockdown measures, as well as building gradual efforts where possible to lift border and international travel restrictions will be essential steps to save reopening in the post-COVID-19 economic recovery process. While we continue to monitor closely the developments on global pandemic control and management, it is also important that we continue to engage and look for opportunities to promote our bilateral ties and common interests. Let me reassure you that Thailand sees opportunities to increase our two-way trade and investment partnerships, particularly with Australia. Since last November, our bilateral relations have been elevated to strategic partnership, and currently both sides are formulating a draft joint plan of action, focusing on key potential areas, including economic cooperation on digital economy, health services, education services, tourism and agriculture, and connectivity. And just last Wednesday, on August 18th, His Excellency General Prayut Chan-o-cha, the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Thailand, had a telephone conversation with the Honorable Scott Morrison, Prime Minister of Australia, as requested by the Australian side. Both sides have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening relations and promoting cooperation under the strategic partnership. Discussion also focused on priority areas such as managing and responding to common challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and environmental issues, as well as promoting trade and investment opportunities, digital economy, and revival international travel. Focusing on the COVID-19 pandemic management, let me say that Thailand very much appreciate, amongst others, Australia's 2.8 million Australian dollars contribution towards strengthening public health capacity in Thailand to tackle this pandemic, and we hope that further collaboration can be done on vaccine access and public health safety. On bilateral trade relations, which is valued at $16 billion in 2020, remains strong. This has been further reaffirmed by the virtual meeting held on the 5th of August, just a few weeks ago, between His Excellency Mr. Jurin Laksanavisit, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Commerce of Thailand, and the Honorable Dan Tehan, the Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment of Australia. Both sides, amongst others, agreed to finalize a strategic economic partnership by 2022, aimed at increasing mutual cooperation in some areas, focusing on agri-tech, health services, e-commerce, and creative economy. I think this is also very timely, as we will be celebrating 70 years on the establishment of the Thai-Australian diplomatic relations next year. In that light, allow me to share with you the latest information on Thailand's economic conditions and future prospects. First, on the economic situation, as of 16th of August, the Office of the National Economic and Social Development Council of Thailand has announced that in the first half of 2021, the Thai economy has expanded by 2% due to exports growth. The exports value in the second quarter of 2021 was recorded at $93.3 billion, which is an increase of 32.6% from the previous quarter and the highest increase in 11 years. Most recently, the NESDC has estimated that the Thai GDP growth in 2021 will be at 0.7 to 1.2%, much depending on the situation that will emerge in the third and fourth quarters of this year. And the Ministry of Finance has predicted 1.3% of growth. On the other hand, in July, the IMF has predicted 2.1% growth for Thailand. Secondly, how is Thailand coping with this pandemic? Since April, Thailand has been experiencing the third wave of the pandemic with a surge in a number of cases, especially those with the Delta strain. The Royal Thai government is making every effort to control this pandemic, especially in 29 provinces, including Bangkok, where there are a high number of cases. We are determined to procure adequate vaccines to ensure that 70% of the Thai population, which is 50 million, be vaccinated by the end of this year. In addition, Thailand is developing our own homegrown vaccines, including an mRNA vaccine, Chulalongkorn, jointly developed by the Chulalongkorn and Pennsylvania universities, which began the first phase of human trials and aims to start mass production by July of next year, hopefully. Thirdly, how are we stimulating the economy? While tackling the situation in multiple ways, including prioritizing the vaccine rollout plan, as of 25th of August, today, 35.20% of the Thai population have been vaccinated, which equates to 8% being fully vaccinated and 27.20% receiving the first dose. The government is also ensuring that fiscal policies, vaccine access, and public health protection are in place, combined with implementing economic relief measures and stimulus packages for all sectors affected by this pandemic. In addition, the Thai government is incrementally, where possible, opening up the country. Thailand has started the Phuket Sandbox since 1st of July and the Samui Plus Sandbox since 15th of July 2021. These initiatives allow fully vaccinated travelers from 69 low and medium risk countries, including Australia, to enter Thailand and stay in Phuket and in Samui for 14 days without quarantine before traveling to other parts of Thailand. All participating hotels and facilities maintain the highest health safety precautions and standards as they have been screened, selected, and obtained the Safety and Health Administration recognition. The travelers to Phuket will be on direct flights from foreign destinations, whereas travelers to Samui can also travel from Bangkok. Thus far, there have been 24,013 international travelers as of 23rd of August joined the Phuket Sandbox program, including 360 travelers from Australia, and 400 international travelers have been welcomed to Samui. The latest package introduced last week is the 7+7 package, allowing 7 days quarantine-free in Phuket and onto other provinces such as Krabi and Phang Nga provinces. Please note that there are ongoing semi-commercial flights available for you, businessmen, specific categories of foreigners to travel from Australia to Thailand, and the Thais and non-Thais traveling will still be required to obtain a certificate of entry to Thailand. Please do check the coethailand.mfa.go.th for more information. Fourthly, why should Thailand be your investment destination? I think despite the disruption caused by the pandemic, Thailand remains an attractive investment destination in many international surveys, and they have ranked Thailand 21st in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index, 39th in the IMD's World Digital Competitiveness Ranking, 44th in WIPO's Global Innovation Index, and 57th in the World Economic Forum's E-Government Development Index, and these are all statistics for 2020. This improvement in ranking derives from more streamlining investment and business procedures, as well as ongoing infrastructure projects and innovation-led and sustainability-driven policies. This global fight against COVID-19 is still ongoing, and the global economy remains vulnerable due to the technological disruption, increased fragmentation of supply chains, effects of climate change, macroeconomic instability across the region. For sustainable post-COVID recovery and upholding the SDGs, Thailand is pursuing the bio-circular and green economic model to build an inclusive and sustainable recovery process. We believe that the BCG economic model will help the region to focus on using resources more efficiently, producing minimal waste, and reducing the impact on the environment. This is also in line with the Build Back Better approach, and we will advocate the BCG economic model when we chair APEC in 2022. From a regional perspective, we would like to encourage Australia to look at Thailand for the long-term opportunities. As a strategic hub in mainland Southeast Asia, Thailand is a founding member of ASEAN, which has 670 million people, and Thailand is the second largest economy. Thailand is committed to RCEP and the negotiations toward an upgraded ANSFTA, as well as building greater multimodal regional connectivity based on the ASEAN Master Plan on Connectivity, as well as the ACMEX Master Plan. This will provide infrastructure support to investment projects in the EEC and the 10 special economic zones located along the borders of Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Malaysia. The Board of Investment Thailand will definitely provide you with more in-depth information on the key East Coast industries. Digital transformation and business will be key, and I'm pleased that Mr. Stuart Chua of DB Results will share his views with us. Indeed, the roles of ATBC and Auscham will be highly relevant in these discussions. Finally, once again, I wish to thank you for this opportunity and to stress that although the pandemic may be preventing us from traveling and meeting in person, but this should not prevent us from intensifying our future collaboration. In this regard, the Royal Thai Embassy in Canberra, together with our Team Thailand agencies, particularly the BOI Sydney, stand ready to cooperate with you in the post-COVID-19 economic recovery process through partnership and for posterity. In the meantime, stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much, and khop kun ka.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Busady, for your remarks. I know everyone here today wishes Thailand every success as they manage this latest COVID-19 outbreak. I would now like to introduce our next guest speaker, Mr. Narit Tersatirasak. Kun Narit is the Deputy Secretary General of the Thailand Board of Investment, a role he has held since 2017. Today, Khun Narit will present on the opportunities for Australian businesses and the key sectors of growth in Thailand. At the end of Khun Narit's presentation, you will also hear from Ms. Siti Tanbuntek, the Director of the Thailand Board of Investment Sydney office. And Khun Siti will introduce her team and let you know how the BOI Sydney office can support you. So over to you now, Khun Narit. And thank you again, Ambassador.
Thank you, Kundal. Good afternoon. Let me share screen. Yeah. Excellency Ambassador Busadi Santipitak, Khun Siti Tanbuntek, Director of BOI Sydney office, Mr. Stuart Shaw, Mr. Douglas Blunt, and distinguished guests. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all distinguished participants for joining the investment webinar today. Let me start with why Thailand. As you know that Thailand is well known as a top destination for tourists and famous Thai food. Many of you may have chance to visit Bangkok, Chiang Mai, or famous Thai beach like Phuket, or playing golf here in Thailand. But actually, Thailand is not the dream destination for tourists only, but we are also the best location for doing business. Thailand is the second largest economy in ASEAN with a population of 69 million people. Around 60% of that is in labor force. And as we can see from the map, Thailand is strategically located in the heart of our region, near big markets like China and India. You can use Thailand as a gateway or springboard to expand your market to 10 countries in ASEAN with 0% tax. Thai government is very supportive for foreign investment. We were ranked by US News to be the best country to start business. The World Bank ranked Thailand 21st for ease of doing business in the world. And we are one of the top improvers, which had a big jump from rank 46 in 2017 to rank 21st in 2020. Due to a series of business regulation reforms, we can reduce the time to set up business from 27.5 days to only 4.5 days. Thailand has one of the best infrastructure in ASEAN. We have 14 international airports. One of those is Suvarnabhumi Airport, which handle more than 60 million passengers per year. We have 6 deep sea ports. Lam Chabang is the largest one. And we also have more than 80 industrial estates, which you can move in and start your business within a short period of time. One of the most important flagship projects of Thai government is to develop the eastern part of Thailand, which covers 3 provinces, Cha Cheong Sao, Chonburi, and Rayong, to be Eastern Economic Corridor, or EEC. The EEC does not start from zero. It's built on the success of the Eastern Seaboard project, which has been developed for over 30 years. Currently, the EEC is the cluster of major industry, such as petrochemical, automobile, and electronics. And now the government has strong intention to further develop this area to be new economic hub of the region by upgrading the infrastructure and building up the ecosystem, including the high-speed train, which will connect 3 major airports, and the capacity expansion of the airport and deep sea port. During the past 3 years, we received the investment application in the EEC more than $30 billion, which is about half of total value of investment application in Thailand. And I believe that the EEC will be a strategic location and create a huge opportunity for Australian investors who wish to base in Southeast Asia. Under the EEC project, there will be several special promotional zones, such as the EECI. I stand for Innovation, located in Rayong. And we also have EECD or Digital Park in Chonburi Province, EECA or Air Metropolis at Utapao Airport. And there are also the medical hub zone in Pattaya area. For market access, Thailand has signed FTA with many countries, which can help the investor access major market around the world. And recently, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, which is a FTA between ASEAN and our trade partners, including Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Korea, and China, was already signed in November last year. This agreement will cover almost 30% of world's economy and a market of 2.2 billion people. This would be the largest trade bloc in the world and would create a huge opportunity for Australian investors. These are the reasons why we are the second home for multinational corporations in various industries, such as automotive, electronics, petrochemical, and bio-based industry. Regarding the Australian investment in Thailand, during the past 5 years, there are 94 projects applied for BOI promotion with total investment amount of $370 million US, mostly in service sector, followed by chemical industry. These are some examples of Australian companies that have already established in Thailand. I hope there would be much more Australian investors coming on the list in the near future. Next, let me briefly introduce Thailand Board of Investment, or BOI in short. We are a government agency under the Prime Minister Office. Our board is chaired by the Prime Minister. Our job is to promote the investment into Thailand by offering tax and non-tax incentive, as well as the comprehensive information and services, such as the business matching, the site selection, visa and work permit facilitation, and the industrial linkage services, which we help connect foreign investor to local part supplier. For the investment incentive, BOI offer tax incentive that consists of corporate income tax exemption or reduction, import duty exemption for machinery, raw material used for production for export, and for research and development. For non-tax incentive, we grant permission to have majority or 100% foreign ownership, permission to own land, and visa and work permit facilitation for foreign expert and technician. Currently, the BOI has offered 5 incentive package. First, the standard incentive, which are industry-based. We have the list of almost 200 activities that are eligible for promotion. The investor will be granted a CAT exemption for up to 8 years. But if you invest in core technology development by partnering with the education or research institution, the CAT exemption will be increased to 10 years. However, the investor can get additional incentive if their investment follow the area-based or merit-based criteria. The area-based incentive include many target areas, such as the EEC, the Special Economic Zone, and the Science and Technology Park. The merit-based are granted to encourage more investment that benefit the country, such as the research and development, the training and design. For agenda-based incentive, we have the measure to stimulate the investment during the COVID time, and measure to promote the productivity enhancement for existing operation, such as the machinery upgrade or using the automation and alternative energy. Our government has initiated Thailand 4.0 policy, which will transform Thai economy into an innovation-driven economy. And we also identify 12 targeted industry to serve this policy. These include the upgrading of 5 existing industry, namely agriculture, tourism, automotive, electronics, and petrochemical. And the building of 7 new industries, which are bioindustry, healthcare and medical, digital, automation and robotics, aerospace, defense, and education business. As Australia is a global leader in technological and innovative development in many of these targeted industry, so there are plenty of opportunity for Australia to join hand with Thailand and enjoy a benefit from our policy. Next, let me show you some investment opportunities in key sector. First, the Bio-Circular Green Industry or BCG. Thai government has announced the BCG economy concept as a national agenda because we have strong intention to join the global collective action to create a low carbon economy and push forward the decarbonization concept. And of course, the BCG will be one of these efforts. We believe that BCG will be our new growth engine since Thailand has many strengths in this area, such as abundant natural resource, biodiversity. We also have skilled and competent workforce and well-established supply chain of bio-based industry. So this will create new business opportunities for Australian investors. For the healthcare and medical industry, Thailand is known as a top destination for medical tourism, with over 3.5 million international patients coming to Thailand on medical package. And we have more than 60 JCI accredited hospitals in Thailand, offering premium healthcare services at competitive price. So there are plenty of opportunities in medical device, pharmaceutical, and medical services. And next, the digital industry. Digital industry is another priority sector which receive a high incentive from BOI. We do promote both digital infrastructure and ecosystem and software development and many digital activities. And last example is education sector. A few years ago, our government has deregulated the education law to allow foreign university to set up their campus in Thailand with 100% foreign ownership. Since Australia is a global leader in education sector, you have many famous universities and TAFE. I personally used to attend one short course at Curtin University in Perth. It was very impressive. So I think this will be a good opportunities for Australian universities to set up campus in Thailand to attract students, not only in Thailand, but also from our neighboring countries and in Southeast Asia. Apart from incentive, we also provide many support services, such as the One Stop Investment Center, which help facilitate and speed up the process to establish your business in Thailand. It is located in the downtown of Bangkok. Next, the Smart Visa program, which was designed to attract highly skilled manpower and investor into Thailand. The benefit of the smart visa holders are that the maximum period of visa will be extended from 1 year to 4 years. And the reporting to the immigration will be extended from 90 days to 1 year. And no re-entry and work permit required. And your spouse and children will also receive the same benefit. BOI also provide e-services, which several of BOI's contact and application can be made via online system. And last but not least, I understand that this year would be a very challenging time for us, but I believe that we can find opportunities in the midst of crisis. And we hope that next year, the COVID situation will be better and our economy will recover. Allow me to assure you once again that BOI stand ready to provide you with our full support. I trust that our partnership between Australia and Thailand will deepen and grow stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Khun Narit, for that contribution. Before you go, I think Khun Siti, who is the director of the BOI Sydney office, will just say a few words now.
Thank you very much, Kundal, and thank you for all attendees. The Deputy Secretary General has kindly given his presentation about the general background of Thailand and the country's strategic potential for investment, particularly BOI policy and promotion incentives for investors in various kinds of industries. In addition, BOI has hundreds of eligible activities that support investment in manufacturing and services in targeted industries. For example, agri-tech and food tech, biotechnology and biochemicals, medicals and healthcare services, EV and automotive, automation and robotics, renewable energy, digital services, and other activities related to biocircular green economy. It's been difficult and challenging for both of our countries in this period of time, but I believe that our continuing relationship and partnership in our businesses will be beneficial for us when we are going better with the situation. My team and I are very pleased and ready to assist you if you have any questions about doing business in Thailand or BOI promotion incentive and activities. In particular, please do not hesitate to contact us at our BOI office in Sydney. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Khun Siti, and thank you again, Khun Narit. I'm sure our audience appreciated your detailed overview of the Thailand Board of Investment supports and incentives. And just a reminder that if you do have any questions about Khun Narit's presentation, Khun Siti will be able to answer those questions if there's time at the end of the session. So please just put your question in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Okay, our next guest is Mr. Stuart Shaw, the Chief Marketing Officer Indochina for DB Results, an Australian business with BOI Promotion currently operating in Thailand. Stuart will provide an overview of DB Results' experiences of doing business in Thailand and some valuable tips for new investors. Thanks very much, Stuart.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I'm going to go through a presentation which I will share, which gives some background on why we came to Thailand and what we've been doing and some tips. So I will get going through this. One of the purposes of our company is to help, and it's one of the things that drives us. And help means by helping people, helping the environment, reducing people in poverty, etc. And I will come back to this later in our presentation for some of the things that we have done and what we do. Just moving forward, why Thailand? And I know this has been covered by both the ambassador and Khun Narit. But as you can see, we start off with location, and Thailand is located uniquely right in the middle of the whole of Asia, which makes it a very, very good place to work from, and with a lot of connections across both neighboring countries, but also to nearby countries if you looking at India and China and Singapore and such. So Asia is the heart of the growth and economy in the world, and I think most people understand that nowadays. So that puts Thailand again in a very unique position. When we looked at Thailand, we looked at how easy it was to do business, and both Khun Narit and the ambassador have mentioned that the World Trade Organization puts Thailand at 21 in ease of business, and that's out of 190 countries in the world. So that's a very good metric. It's also ranked as the 9th country out of 40 in this region for economic freedom. And that's also something that you can use and need, particularly when you're looking at setting up a business and what you're going to do going forward. The BOI itself, again, as has been explained, has a number of incentives which are all very good and also help companies starting up in Thailand. So when we looked at this, our long-term objective is to grow across the whole of Indochina, and looking at all of the incentives and all of the metrics around Thailand, it was the perfect opportunity for us to come in. So we also looked at why, what's in Thailand, and I think it has been mentioned by, I think, Khun Narit, there is a number of programs being run by the government, and that is such as Thailand 4.0 in increasing people's move to the digital technology. And to be fair, Thailand is lagging a little bit in this area, and that's probably due to cultural and some of the fact that there's cheap labor. There's a lot of paper in this country, but people have now started to look at moving away from that into making people getting to do more useful jobs rather than moving paper from one place to another. So we looked at all of that, and it was a very, very good fit for our company. So that's why we've chosen to come into Thailand. What we're doing here, and again, whilst we work in a number of different industries and segments, we have a very, very strong affinity with healthcare. We do a lot of work in the US with healthcare, and we do a lot of work in Australia with large hospitals and healthcare. And we started off here back in February of last year by signing an MOU with the Faculty of Medicine, Sirirat Hospital, Mahidol University. Our CEO, our joint CEO, and the Dean signed the MOU, and it was witnessed by the Australian Ambassador, Alan McKinnon. Now, that was good because that also means that Australia sees healthcare, and this is in a number of the presentations earlier, as one of the areas where Australia can really help. So that MOU was to provide a platform, and it came from our technology partner, OutSystems, who has the #1 low-code platform in the world. They have provided that to the university for free, and we are providing all of the training, not around just using the product, but all of the agile and other parts of our methodology, so that we can upskill the hospital IT staff to be able to take this forward into the long term. From this, we actually led us into a project with the hospital and looking at recovery processes after surgery. This was a very, very interesting project because, again, mentioned in the paper, nearly all of the processes in the hospital were paper-based, and we had pieces of paper this big or wads of paper this big to be filled out. So we used our team of design thinkers working with the surgeons to look at the processes over a number of different surgery types and come up with a framework that would then reduce the duplication and streamline all of the processes for all of the different surgery types. The surgeons were very, very happy with this because we also have some clinicians working in our company, so they were able to sit down and have very deep conversations with them about how to do things and what they would like to achieve out of the end of it. we also looked at what else we could do. There was a pathology process in there, which is pathology specimens. Again, largely paper-based, and the poor admin person had to go from department to department to find the people to work on pathology. And we've changed that so the admin person has all of the information on a computer and can allocate and monitor what's going on with the pathology process. And unfortunately, as mentioned, everybody in the world is dealing with COVID. So we've worked with the hospital to develop a patient management system so that the doctors and the nurses can streamline processes to manage patients from testing to treatment to rehabilitation, and so they can then leave the hospital and then they monitor them afterwards. So this is beneficial in the fact that the hospital itself has reduced the amount of paper. They have easy access to information. The processes are streamlined, which means they don't need to spend as much time. And one of the benefits out at the end of it is the surgeons have to do weekly reports on their surgeries. That is now being automated. So instead of spending 10 hours doing a weekly report, they spend 30 odd minutes, press a button, get the report, check it, and then send it in. It means they can spend the rest of that 9.5 hours working with other staff and also looking after patients. So we think that that's beneficial. And one of the things that we have done here just in healthcare to help the hospital into moving into a more effective way and essentially freeing staff up to spend more time with patients. It's not about reducing staff, it's about making people available to help the number of people going through the hospital. I'm just going to finish off then with tips for doing business in Thailand. And this is good. The BIO processes themselves are very good, and they're very clearly defined, and it tells you what to do, and they're very good at helping you out. But I would strongly recommend anybody starting up or going through BI, get a local legal counsel, as we did, because that helped the process quite a lot. We became a fully Australian-owned company, which is a little bit longer process, but having the legal counsel here was able to just really help in making sure all of that moved through. They understand the language and the culture, so we didn't have to deal with all of those issues. Speaking about language and culture, it is worthwhile anybody coming here understanding the culture, and I would say that for any country that you would go to work in that's not your own. You need to really spend a bit of time understanding the culture. The Thai culture is, I think, I like it very much, and but it is something that is quite different to Australia. They think slightly differently, they behave differently, but that's with any country in and around. So it is worthwhile doing that. And if you're going to spend time in Thailand working here, it is worth at least trying to learn the language so you can have some conversation. A couple more people and staff. We have a couple of Thai staff in our organization, and they have been absolutely invaluable for us when we're working here. Because all of the work that we do is remote, we've been doing virtual projects for years, which was beneficial when COVID started because we didn't have to work from home. We were already working remotely anyhow. But these staff here locally have become the key interface between what's going on in the projects and what's going on within the company. So they're very, very good. They understand and they can talk to the local people and really get an understanding of what's going on and making sure that everybody's clear on the communication. And they also have other assets in what they do as part of the development process or analysis or research. So highly recommend looking and getting some good staff, Thai, and there are good Thai staff here. Trust me, they are, because we have some of them. And I think looking at that overall, they're some of the key things. And the other one is support. And I know this has been mentioned a little, but if I look at the support that we've had, apart from BOI, We've also had a lot of support from the Australian government or the Australian embassy here. We've had the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, Austrade. We've worked with them and they're very good when you're starting up a business in Thailand. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, DFAT, also we do some work with them. The Australian Thai Chamber of Commerce, and I know we're going to have them talking to you shortly, so I won't say too much, but they're invaluable not only as helping get involved here, but they're also a community of people that you can go and talk to. So I would recommend them highly. And there are other organisations such as the Digital Economy Promotional Agency, DEPA, who are there to help people promote and get out into and take digital technology, for example, out into the world in Thailand. So I'm going to finish off there. I know we've got some more to do on the other support side, so I'll hand back to you, Dale.
Great, thanks so much, Stuart. I really appreciate you presenting and giving our attendees some really helpful insights into the benefits of doing business in Thailand. Our final guest speakers today are Mr. Doug Blunt and Mr. Brendan Cunningham. Doug is the president of the Australia-Thailand Business Council based in Sydney, and Brendan is the executive director of AusTram Thailand. Both Doug and Brendan will share how their respective organisations can support Australian businesses wishing to trade or invest in Thailand. I'll hand over to you, Doug and Brendan, now. Thanks.
Thank you, Dale. My name is Douglas Blunt, President of the Australia-Thailand Business Council, as Dale just said. It's my pleasure today, together with my colleague Brendan Cunningham, Executive Director of the Australian Thai Chamber of Commerce in Bangkok, to present an outline of in the segment of how we might provide trade and investment support for Australian business. I'm coming to you today from Bowral, 120 kilometres southwest of Sydney, and Brendan from Bangkok. Firstly, just a bit of background on ATBC, and then I'll ask Brendan to comment on AusTram in Thailand. ATBC is in our 41st year, and I'm honoured to have been a board member for many of those years and now president. ATBC has continued to advocate to Australian and Thai governments on behalf of the private sector to promote bilateral trade, and can count many success stories since foundation. We're a not-for-profit based organisation with headquarters in Sydney and also represented in Canberra, Perth and Adelaide. Thankfully, we even see the Zoom and business environment, if I can call it that, a peculiar advantage for us to be a little more nimble, given the huge physical distances in Australia, and for that matter between the Australian continent and Thailand. It takes quite some hours, as we all know, to get between the countries. We've taken a fresh look at ATBC's strategy in recent times and how we help businesses, and the COVID pandemic's only reinforced this. We've had sporadic success with organising some important physical meetings and relationships, but our strength lately has come to be from a more dynamic website, Zoom meetings and seminars. ATBC seeks to be recognised by governments and commercial interests as a go-to body for information and connections on opportunities in Australia and Thailand, always for furtherance of mutual commerce by way of trade and investment. We're a not-for-profit sponsored by our members and have engaged in a series of MOUs in Thailand and Australia. Full details of these are available on our website. I should mention that we were prime instigators in collaborating with Australian and Thai authorities and the Australian government, of course, in establishing the free trade agreement signed by Australia in 2005 with Thailand, first in the ASEAN area. We've heard from the ambassador earlier on just how successful this has been. We have an important advisor called Kirkbride Jirapet in Bangkok as an honorary in an honorary position for the ATBC. He's an eminent person and currently a member of the Council of State. Our current board is still quite small but capable, comprising myself, Vice President Jamie Gibson for the mining sector, with the background in Austrade, our Secretary Pichai Sirapong in Canberra, with long background in the Australian Public Service and Transport, Glenn Robinson, a venture capital specialist with BOI experience as an advisor and in fact working for them, and more lately Chris Moore in Perth, an old businessman from Thailand who's expanding relationships and as part of the WA ASEAN Business Alliance as well. More generally, I encourage anyone interested in expanding their business inputs and investments more widely than just North Asia to look to Thailand. Thailand has exciting and focused strategic industry segments, as we've heard, and they're very well researched and expressed, especially by the BOI. Please look at the new ATBC website and drill down into our links on all the information we have there, including VOI, Thai Trade, Austrade, DFAT, the Australian Institute of International Affairs, and local Thai news sources. On-ground details of embassies and trade and investment links can also be found, and most importantly, AusCham Thailand. I could continue to describe ATBC, its history, present plans, and future ambitions, and past close links with AusCham, but I'd just like to leave you with the thought that we're here to connect businesses in Australia and Thailand to their best advantage. It's a very powerful and compelling location, as we've heard, and I ask you to consider that carefully. I'd now like to ask Brendan Cunningham to make some remarks on how AusCham Thailand has been very successfully operating in Thailand for much the same time as ATBC has in Australia and Thailand, of course, and how new businesses can feel very comfortable amongst friends. We've always promoted the thought that AusCham is the leading chamber of commerce in Thailand. Over to you, Brendan.
Thank you, Doug, and certainly like the last statement, we appreciate it, and we've always thought that as well, that we are the leading chamber of commerce in Thailand. But I'd especially like to echo your other sentiment about we do many similar things, and connecting Australian businesses, Australia and Thailand is a very important part of that, and Thailand is a wonderful destination for investment. As I mentioned, AusCham and ATBC do a lot of similar things. We have similar objectives in terms of promoting business in Thailand and Australia. There are some specific things that we do here in Thailand I would just like to provide a snapshot of. AusCham Thailand has 3 pillars: business, connections, community, and we use these pillars to really drive all of our activities. As Doug mentioned, ATBC has a very strong advocacy part of their organisation, as we do here in AusCham Thailand. We have regular 6-week regular meetings with the Australian ambassador and his DFAT and Austrade colleagues. Plus, on the Thai government side, we have very strong relationships with, of course, the BOI and agencies like DEPA that Stuart mentioned. Our online promotions are very strong, and I encourage you to look at our digital assets such as LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, where we really amplify our member businesses to give them that face here in Thailand in the Thai market as well. On the connection side, anyone who's heard of AusCham Thailand often says, wow, you guys are the ones that do sundowners, right? And that is correct. It's unfortunately not correct at the moment. We're doing an online version of sundowners, but when we can resume physical activities, sundowners is the premier networking event in Thailand, not only for the great food and venues, but we really work hard at making connections. People come to our events and they meet people who are valuable to them and their business. We also do knowledge sharing sessions across specific sectors. So we have industry committees that drive our content, and also broader picture whenever there's an update in policy, tax, legal, we provide updates, and they also act as valuable networking sessions as well. You can also connect through our online directory. We have our near 400 members on our website, and members are able to reach out to each other through that platform as well. Finally, community, and Doug mentioned the important part of that community. When you come into Thailand, it is a wonderful destination to both live and work, but for a lot of Australians, of course, we miss Australia because that's also a wonderful country. So we provide activities and events that allow people to have that feeling of home. We have a great Aussie Bash. We usually do the AFL Grand Final. And most importantly, we have our annual trip up to Hellfire Pass, where we attend the dawn service on Anzac Day. Finally, around community, we're very active in CSR. We strongly believe, our board and our members strongly believe in giving back to the community we live in. I'd like to throw in a little plug, if no one minds. We're currently running a COVID-19 CSR care package initiative where we're delivering essential items to people who have COVID, not in hospital, no income and no access to get simple things like food, toiletries, etc. I'm proud to say that we've raised over 1 million baht in the past couple of months and delivered those care packages out to the Chiang Mai, Phuket, Chonburi, Bangkok, but there's still a lot more to be done, so donations are of course open. I'd like to finish with a little summary. People often ask me how to best explain what Auscham does and the difference between things like ATBC, Austrade and other agencies. BOI, of course, is your first stop for if you want to invest in Thailand. They do a wonderful job and are well supported by ATBC and, of course, our colleagues over at Austrade in the Australian Embassy. They provide a red carpet for investors to come into Thailand, and once you reach here and open the door, Auscham plays a very important part in when you come here, helping your business to grow. So if you do come to Thailand, make sure you connect with Auscham. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Brendan and Doug, for that. I really appreciate you taking the time to present today. And look, I really would just encourage anyone who's interested in investing or trading in Thailand to get in touch with ATBC or Auscham Thailand. They've been a great support to the BOI Sydney office and to me personally. So please do get in touch with them if you do have an interest in investing or trading in Thailand. Look, we're running really close to time, and I think I'll try to answer everyone's questions that they've put in the Q&A box for now. There's just been one question that has come in during the registration process, and that question is about the investment amount in Thailand. So it's a question for Khun Sidi as the director of the BOI Sydney office. Khun Sidi, could you just clarify the minimum amount an Australian business needs to invest in Thailand to receive BOI incentives?
Thank you, Kundale. The minimum investment required for promotion is only 1 million baht or less than 50,000 Australian dollars. Then it is not necessary to be a big investment that can get promotion or apply for BOI promotion. So if the business has at least minimum 1 million baht investment, there you are qualifying to apply for BOI promotion. Just only 1 million baht for minimum investment.
Great. Thank you so much, Khun Sidi. That's really helpful. Look, if anyone does have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the BOI Sydney office or to me directly. Given that it's past 5 o'clock, I think it's probably time to wrap up. So I want to thank everyone who's joined us today, but I would also sincerely like to thank our guest speakers for their support with this event. We really hope that we can see you in person sometime soon. But for now, we really appreciate you joining us and we hope you have a great day. Thanks, everyone.